Okay, so we're diving into the world of emergency medical communication.
Oh, this is going to be good.
Yeah, you got it. Whether you're about to be an EMT or just fascinated by, like, this high-stakes world,
Right.
get ready to uncover how choosing the right words
Yeah.
at the right time
Yes.
can literally be a matter of life or death.
Absolutely. I mean, what's amazing to me is how much these sources
Yeah.
really underscore that it's not just about bandages and sirens. It's about connecting with people when they're at their most vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like, you're not just treating a medical emergency, you're navigating a human one too.
It's like on top of all the medical training, you're essentially becoming a communication ninja.
Yes, exactly.
And speaking of navigating these sources, highlight just how many different people you need to connect with as an EMT, right?
Yeah.
It's not just the patient.
Right, right. Think about it. Panicked family members, maybe bystanders who might have crucial details, the dispatcher who's guiding you in medical control, giving directions remotely, and then the hospital staff when you hand off care.
Yeah,
It's like a carefully choreographed dance where everyone needs to be on beat.
they got to be on beat.
Yeah.
So let's break down the moves in this communication dance.
Okay.
Starting with how you actually talk to someone in crisis.
Mm-hmm.
I was struck by this emphasis on therapeutic communication.
Yeah.
What does that even mean, like, in this context?
So imagine you're arriving at a scene, sirens blaring,
Yeah.
someone's injured, maybe scared.
Oh, gosh.
Your word
Right.
are the first step in building trust.
Yeah.
It's about using open-ended questions like, can you tell me what happened? To encourage them to share,
Right.
but also knowing when a closed-ended question like, are you having trouble breathing,
Yes.
is necessary to get like vital information quickly.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's about reading the room, or I guess reading the patient.
Yes, exactly.
And one source mentioned avoiding common communication pitfalls. It seems like even good intentions could backfire here.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
We might instinctively want to offer reassurance, like everything will be okay,
Right.
but that can ring hollow or even untrue in a serious situation.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Similarly, unsolicited advice or interrupting can make someone feel very unheard.
Mm-hmm.
These sources emphasize active listening above all else.
So being present, truly hearing them, is more powerful than any medical jargon.
I think so, for sure.
Now, one thing that really jumped out at me was this whole idea of emotional intelligence being super crucial
Yes.
for EMTs. And it's like, it sounds almost as important as knowing how to, like, take a pulse.
It really is.
Seriously.
Yeah. Just imagine dealing with someone in extreme pain. Their emotions might be all over the place.
Right.
As an EMT, you need to stay grounded, manage your own stress, but also recognize and respond to their emotional state.
It's like being a pressure cooker, but staying cool on the inside.
That's a good way to put it.
And one source actually offered a really practical framework for this.
Okay, what is that?
The FBI's behavioral change stairway model.
Okay.
It's 5 steps.
Okay.
Starting with active listening, then showing empathy, building rapport, exerting influence, and finally initiating behavior change.
Wow.
Yeah.
It makes sense though, right?
Yeah.
Even though you're not negotiating a hostage situation, those steps are so valuable for de-escalating any crisis and guiding someone towards a calmer state.
I love how practical that is.
Yeah.
So we've got communication basics down, but then there's this whole layer of cultural differences,
Right.
which could make things really tricky.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, it's a critical point these sources bring up.
Yeah.
And one example that really stuck with me was about coining.
Coining.
Yeah, it's a traditional Asian healing practice.
And I've heard of that. They rub a coin on the skin, and it can leave, like, red marks, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Now imagine a healthcare provider who's not culturally aware,
Right.
sees those marks, and misinterpreted them as signs of abuse.
Oh, no.
That could lead to a huge misunderstanding, damaging the trust that you're trying to build.
It's a stark reminder that good intentions aren't enough.
No.
We need cultural awareness to avoid those kinds of miscommunications.
We do.
And it goes beyond coining, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Nonverbal cues like eye contact or personal space
Yeah.
have different meanings across cultures.
Huge.
Like in some cultures, direct eye contact can be seen as respectful, while in others, it can be perceived as confrontational.
Right.
It's so nuanced.
It is.
So how do you even begin to navigate all those cultural nuances,
Yeah.
especially in an emergency?
Well, I think these sources emphasize the importance of being aware of your own cultural biases, first and foremost.
Okay.
And then it's about approaching each patient as an individual,
Okay.
being sensitive to their cues and not making assumptions based on their background.
So it's observation, listening, and adapting your communication style on the fly.
Exactly.
Wow. Now, I imagine communicating with specific patient groups like children or older adults
Yes.
comes with its own set of challenges.
It does. It does,
Yeah.
for sure. Let's start with older patients. They might have hearing loss or take a bit longer to process information. But one crucial point these sources hammered home is to never assume that confusion or altered mental status is just old age.
Right.
It could be a sign of something much more serious, like a medical condition that needs immediate attention.
They need help, right?
Yes, exactly. And with children, it's all about reassurance and honesty.
Yeah.
They pick up on fear, so if you're calm and reassuring, it helps them stay calm too.
Oh.
Often, letting them keep a comfort object like a teddy bear can make a world of difference.
Oh, absolutely. It's about meeting them where they're at emotionally.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, we've talked about age, but what about patients with disabilities?
Right.
Like someone who's hearing impaired, for instance.
Well, in that case, the key is clear, respectful communication.
Right.
Face them directly, speak clearly and a little slower, and make sure they can see your lips if they rely on lip reading.
Okay.
But whatever you do, never shout.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Shouting distorts sounds and actually makes it harder to understand.
Wow, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, and having a pen and paper handy for written communication can also be really, really helpful.
Good tip.
Yeah.
And what about visually impaired patients?
With visually impaired patients, you got to describe everything you're doing verbally.
Oh, wow.
Imagine your sister their eyes, painting a picture for them with your words.
Right.
And maintaining physical contact, like letting them hold your arm as you guide them, can be incredibly reassuring.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Right.
Yeah, it's about creating a sense of safety and trust through those physical and verbal cues.
And here's an interesting point from the sources.
Okay.
If they have a guide dog,
Yeah.
ideally the dog should be transported with them.
Really?
Yeah, it reduces stress for both the patient and the animal.
Wow, I never would have thought about that.
Right.
That's amazing how much attention to detail
Yes.
goes into effective communication in this field.
So important.
Yeah, it's clear that mastering these skills is an ongoing process.
But let's be real. What happens when those language barriers pop up?
Oh, that's where things can get really interesting.
I bet.
Yeah, and it's more common than you might think.
You're right. We live in such a diverse world, and those language differences can be a real obstacle in an emergency situation.
It can be, yeah.
What do the sources recommend for bridging that communication gap?
Well, first, you have to assess their English level.
Okay.
Even a few basic phrases can be helpful.
Sure.
Pointing to body parts while asking questions,
Okay.
using simple, clear language, and avoiding medical jargon can also go a long way.
That makes a lot of sense, but what about situations where you need more than just pointing and basic phrases?
Well, technology can be a real lifesaver here.
Yeah. How so?
Well, translation apps and websites can be incredibly helpful.
Right.
And if you're working in an area with a large non-English speaking population, learning a few key medical phrases in their language can build instant rapport.
It's like that saying, a little goes a long way.
Yeah, exactly. So you've tackled the immediate communication with the patient,
Right.
but the communication doesn't end there, does it? What about documentation?
Ah, yes. The unsung hero of emergency medical care. The patient care report, or PCR.
The PCR,
Yeah.
it might seem like just paperwork,
Right.
but it's so much more than that. And the sources were very specific about its importance.
Yeah.
Why is it so crucial?
It's a legal document. It's part of the patient's permanent medical record, and it helps ensure everyone involved in their care is on the same page.
So important.
It needs to be clear, accurate, and comprehensive.
So what exactly needs to go into this all-important PCR?
You'll need to document everything from the time of events, like the initial call, your arrival, key interventions, to the patient's vital signs, your assessment findings, and the care you provided.
Right.
And any changes in their condition, the final destination, even if they refuse care, that needs to be documented.
Wow, it sounds incredibly detailed.
It has to be. Other healthcare providers, insurance companies, even lawyers, they might read this document.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
So accuracy is paramount.
Yeah.
And the sources were very clear on this. Falsifying information is not only unethical, but it could have serious consequences.
So honesty and accuracy are absolutely crucial.
100%.
Okay, so you've treated the patient, filled out this super detailed PCR,
Right.
but the communication relay race isn't over yet, is it? What about when you transfer care to the hospital staff?
That's the critical handoff, and it needs to be seamless.
Yeah.
The sources emphasize the importance of eye contact,
Okay.
minimizing distractions,
Right.
and ensuring a shared mental model.
A shared mental model.
Yeah, it just means everyone involved in the patient's care has a common understanding of the situation.
Okay.
What's the patient's history? What's their current state? What are their immediate needs?
So everyone needs to be on the same page.
Exactly. No room for miscommunication or drop balls here.
Right. High stakes.
Yes, exactly. And to make sure that handoff is crystal clear, the sources recommend using structured formats like SBR. Yeah, it stands for Situation, Background, Assessment, Recommendation.
Oh, okay. So you're painting a clear picture for the receiving team.
Exactly.
It's fascinating how much goes into ensuring effective communication even after you've left the scene.
It really is.
Yeah.
It just highlights how central communication is to the entire EMS system.
Absolutely.
It's the thread that connects every stage of patient care.
We've covered a lot of ground, but we're not done yet.
We're not.
We still need to explore the fascinating world of radio communication and how technology is changing the game for EMTs.
That's right. We've only just scratched the surface.
But one thing is clear. Effective communication is at the heart of everything an EMT does.
Absolutely.
And on that note, let's take a quick pause, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll delve deeper into those radio waves and other communication tools that are revolutionizing the field.
Sounds good.
All right, so you're telling me that as an EMT, I'm not just going to be using my words.
Yeah,
I'm going to be relying on radio waves
that's right.
to communicate. That sounds like something straight out of an action movie.
It's true. Those radios you see EMTs using,
Right.
they aren't just for show. They are their lifeline in the field. It's how they connect with dispatch, with hospitals, with each other, especially when they're on the move.
Okay, so walk me through it.
Okay,
What kind of tech are we talking about here?
cool, Cap.
What's a base station versus a mobile radio?
Yeah.
And why does it even matter?
So picture this. You're responding to a multi-car collision on a busy highway.
Okay.
There's chaos everywhere,
Oh, gosh.
and you need to relay critical information quickly.
Right.
That's where these different types of radio systems come in.
Okay, I'm picturing it. Lots of noise, lots of moving parts.
Exactly.
What now?
You'll have your portable radio, your walkie-talkie essentially,
Right.
to communicate with your team at the scene, but to call for backup,
Right.
to get those life flights spinning. You'll need to reach out further, and that's where the mobile radios and the ambulance and those powerful base stations come in.
I see.
They're like the anchors of the communication network,
Okay.
often situated on top of buildings or towers, ensuring clear signals over long distances, even in really challenging environments.
So even with all the sirens and the stress,
Yeah.
crystal clear communication is key.
It really is.
Yeah.
These sources emphasize that a garbled message
Mm-hmm.
could mean the difference between a patient getting the right care at the right time or not.
That's a big deal.
Absolutely.
And speaking of clear messages, the sources mention all these different frequency bands and technologies like
Yes.
VHF, UHF,
Right.
and something called trunking systems, like a whole other language.
It can seem like a lot, but think of it like this. You've got different radio waves carrying your voice, just like different lanes on that busy highway.
Okay.
VHF and UHF are like the classic radio waves. We've used them for ages, but they can get crowded, especially in a big emergency. And that's where trunking systems come in.
Okay, what's that?
Imagine a system that dynamically manages those radio frequencies,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a super efficient air traffic controller,
Oh, wow.
making sure everyone has a clear channel to communicate on.
So it's all about ensuring those messages get through no matter what.
Exactly. And it's not just about the technology. It's about how you use it.
Okay.
The sources are full of advice on how to make your radio communication as effective as possible.
Okay. Like what?
Brevity and clarity are key.
Yeah. No one wants to hear a novel over the radio when every second counts.
Exactly.
Right. It's like a radio haiku.
Yeah, like shortened to the point.
Sort and to the point. Okay.
Stick to plain English. Avoid jargon or codes unless it's absolutely necessary.
Gotcha.
And just focus on transmitting the most critical information.
So who you are, where you are, what you got, and what you need.
That's exactly.
It's like the ultimate exercise in concise communication. Now, I have to ask about some of these other high-tech tools that were mentioned in these sources.
Yeah, what's that?
Interoperable communication systems
Okay.
and mobile data terminals.
Right.
Those sound straight out of a sci-fi movie.
They're pretty close. So remember that multi-car collision we were talking about?
Yeah.
Now imagine firefighters, paramedics, and police all trying to coordinate their response.
Yeah.
but they're using different radio systems that can't talk to each other.
Oh, no, different languages.
Yeah, and that's where interoperable systems come in.
Okay, so it's like they're speaking different languages.
Right.
How do you bridge that communication gap?
That's the beauty of these interoperable systems.
Okay.
They use something called VoIP technology.
Okay.
You might know it from, like, internet phone calls.
Right.
To essentially create a communication bridge between landlines, cell phones, and computers.
Oh, wow.
This allows different agencies to seamlessly share information in real time,
That's
no
incredible.
matter what system they're using.
It's like having a universal translator
Yes.
for emergency responders.
It is.
What a game changer.
It's a game changer.
And what about those mobile data terminals, or MDTs?
Yeah.
What's their claim to fame?
Think of them as mini computers
Okay.
inside ambulances.
Gotcha.
They can receive data directly from dispatch.
Okay.
So instead of relying solely on voice transmissions,
Right.
EMTs can see critical information displayed right in front of them.
Yeah.
Addresses, patient histories,
Wow.
even maps, and real-time traffic updates. It's
Yeah.
all there at their fingertips.
Wow. Talk about a high-tech upgrade. No more scribbling down addresses on your hand while you're trying to drive safely.
That's right.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's all about enhancing communication and situational awareness.
Right.
Ensuring that EMTs have the most up-to-date information to make the best decisions for their patients.
It's incredible how much thought and ingenuity goes into these systems,
Yeah.
all to ensure that help arrives quickly and efficiently.
It really is. It highlights how communication is so much more than just words.
Right.
It's about leveraging technology to connect the right people
Yeah.
with the right information at the right time.
Of course.
And, that can mean the difference between life and death in an emergency situation.
It's remarkable.
It is.
Now, we've talked about the technical side of things,
Yeah.
but what about the human element? Communicating effectively under pressure, especially when lives are on the line, can't be easy.
It's not easy.
How can someone prepare for that level of pressure?
Well, one technique they emphasize is mindfulness.
Okay.
It's about being present in the moment,
Right.
not letting your thoughts race ahead
Okay.
or get bogged down by what-ifs.
Right.
So if you can train your mind to stay grounded, even when everything around you is chaotic,
Right.
you'll be able to communicate more clearly and effectively.
So it's about finding your zen in the middle of a storm.
That's a good way to put it.
That's next level skill right there.
Yeah, and they also highlight the importance of self-awareness.
Okay.
Recognizing your own stress responses. Are you prone to talking too fast? Do you clam up under pressure?
Right.
And then finding ways to manage those tendencies is crucial.
So it's not just about knowing the right words, it's about knowing yourself.
Exactly.
I like
And that goes hand in hand with active listening.
Right.
Yeah, when you're communicating under pressure, it's so easy to get caught up in your own head.
Yeah.
But truly, hearing what the other person is saying, whether it's a patient, a dispatcher, or a fellow EMT,
Yeah.
that's essential.
It's about making that connection even in the midst of the chaos.
It is. And remember, clear communication isn't just about what you say, it's about how you listen.
This has been an amazing crash course in the world of emergency medical communication.
It is fascinating.
We've covered everything from the technical nuts and bolts of radio communication
Oh,
to the importance of clear, concise language
absolutely.
and the power of active listening.
It's crucial.
But we're not done yet, are we? There's more to the story, right?
There is. We've covered a lot of ground, but there are still some important nuances to explore.
Okay, like what?
So remember how we talked about adapting your communication style for different patient groups?
Right, like being mindful of cultural differences.
Yes.
And using age-appropriate language.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, these sources go even deeper,
Okay.
offering really valuable insights into how to communicate effectively with patients who have specific needs,
Okay.
like those who are deaf or hard of hearing.
That's so important. We need to make sure everyone feels heard and understood regardless of their abilities.
Absolutely, and that's what we'll delve into next.
Okay, this is important.
These insights could be really helpful for anyone, whether you're an EMT or simply want to be a better communicator in your everyday life.
I love it.
So stay tuned.
So we're back, ready to unpack these communication nuances for patients with specific needs. And I'm really interested in what these sources say about interacting with people who are deaf or hard of hearing.
Right.
It seems like that could be a real challenge in an emergency.
It definitely requires, sensitivity and adaptability.
Right.
But the good news is that a few key strategies can really make a world of difference.
Okay, great. Like what?
Well, first off, the sources emphasize that most people who are hard of hearing, they have normal intelligence,
Okay.
right? and they are not embarrassed by their disability.
So it's about treating them with the same respect and consideration
Ex-
you would any other patient.
exactly.
Oh, great.
Start by making eye contact, speaking clearly, maybe a little slower pace than usual.
Gotcha.
Make sure your face is well lit, and they have a clear view of your mouth if they rely on lip reading.
So no hiding in the shadows.
Right, exactly.
And I imagine shouting is a no-go.
Definitely, shouting distorts sounds, makes it harder to understand.
Okay.
Instead, focus on enunciating your words clearly.
So clear and slow.
Exactly, and having a pen and paper handy is always a good idea.
Okay, good tip.
And learning even a few basic sign language phrases, that can go a long way in building rapport.
It's about going that extra mile to ensure they feel heard and understood.
Absolutely.
And the same principles of respect and adaptation apply when communicating with visually impaired patients.
Absolutely, because they can't see what's happening.
Right.
Clear, descriptive language is crucial.
Like their eyes, you're painting a picture for them with your words.
Precisely. And maintaining gentle physical contact, like letting them hold your arm as you guide them, can be incredibly reassuring.
Right. Creates that trust.
Exactly.
If they use a cane or eyeglasses, make sure those are transported with them to the hospital.
Yes, absolutely.
It's about anticipating their needs.
Right.
And ensuring their comfort throughout the entire process.
And speaking of anticipating needs, the sources had some really fascinating things to say about guide dogs, which I never would have considered.
Guide dogs. Yeah, what about them?
It's amazing how much thought goes into these details. But ideally, the guide dog should be transported with the patient.
Really?
Yeah, it reduces stress for both. It helps maintain that critical bond.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
But what happens if, say, the patient needs immediate medical attention and the dog can't safely accompany them in the ambulance?
That's where your communication skills come in again.
Okay.
You need to quickly assess the situation and make arrangements for the dog's care.
So like what? Call a supervisor, animal control?
Exactly. Or even a family member, whoever's available.
It's about being resourceful and advocating for both the patient and their furry companion.
You got it. And it highlights how much critical thinking and adaptability are involved in being an effective communicator in this field.
You're not just an EMT, you're like a communication superhero.
That's right.
As we're going through all these scenarios,
Yeah.
it strikes me that documentation must play a crucial role in ensuring all this important information gets passed along.
That's right. We touched on this earlier. But it's worth reiterating. That patient care report, that PCR, it's more than just paperwork.
Right.
It's a legal document, a vital communication tool that ensures continuity of care.
Absolutely. The sources were very clear. Accuracy is paramount.
It is.
What are some of the key things EMTs need to remember when they're filling out a PCR?
First and foremost, be thorough.
Okay.
Document the time of events,
Right.
the patient's vital signs, your assessment findings, the care you provided, and any changes in their condition.
Yeah.
If they refuse care, document that too.
Of course.
And remember, clear, concise language is essential.
So no medical jargon.
No medical jargon.
Cryptic abbreviation.
No cryptic abbreviations.
Right.
Other healthcare providers, insurance companies, maybe even lawyers, they'll be reading this document.
I guess that makes sense.
So it needs to be crystal clear.
Right.
And remember, falsifying information is not only unethical,
Right.
but it can have serious consequences.
So honesty and accuracy are absolutely crucial.
Yes, 100%.
Stay honest and accurate.
And one last thing.
Okay.
Be aware that certain situations, like gunshot wounds, dog bites, or suspected abuse, might require filing additional reports.
Okay.
The specific requirements will vary depending on where you are, so familiarize yourself with your local protocols.
It's about dotting your I's and crossing your T's to ensure that nothing falls through the cracks.
Exactly. And ultimately, that's what effective communication in emergency medical situations is all about. Paying attention to those details, adapting to the unexpected,
Right.
and always striving to connect with people in a way that is both compassionate and professional.
I love that.
Yeah.
This deep dive has been incredibly eye-opening.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is. We've covered so much ground.
We have.
From the power of therapeutic communication and the importance of cultural sensitivity
Great.
to the technical aspects of radio communication and the critical role of documentation.
It's all connected.
I feel like I've gained a whole new appreciation for the complexity and importance of communication in this field.
It's amazing. And these sources really provide such a solid foundation
Yeah,
for developing those essential communication skills.
I really do.
Remember, it's a journey, not a destination.
Right.
Embrace the challenges, stay curious, and never underestimate the power of human connection.
especially when it matters most.
Especially when it matters most. You got it.
This was amazing. Thank you so much for this deep dive.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.